Ask Adam.
Hello, welcome to the second episode of Ask Adam. Well, I will endeavor to answer some of your questions. My lovely wife Lauren is here to read the questions. You've composited them, right? Because we got so many.
Compiled more. I used some questions word for word.
Okay. We took questions on Reddit this time, r/Adam Ragusea. I think we'll probably take questions there from now on generally. A bajillion came in, which is lovely. I'm also going to endeavor to do most of my chatting with folks there. It's a really positive community. It's people, watching videos and trying to help each other cook, which is really lovely. And I didn't create it, it's fan-made, it's fan-run, which is the way I think those kinds of things should be. So in the future, if you want to ask a question, I'll post a post where I'll invite questions a few days before we shoot, and you can try again then. But for right now, I'm going to endeavor to give briefer answers to a much larger number of questions, and we'll see how far we get. Question 1.
All right. So this is the first Ask Adam since you have become a full-time YouTuber. Mm-hmm. So what has life been like since you started amassing YouTube followers?
It's been lovely. And in a few ways terrible, but mostly lovely. And I would say that if, to be very honest about it, the biggest thing that has changed has simply been money. Things were real tight there for a few years.
Kids are expensive.
Kids are real expensive, especially when they
People don't buy
break
books
limbs.
like they're supposed to. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. So, and we haven't changed our lifestyle in any way. I tip much more extravagantly than I used to, for sure. But that's about it. I mean, we're really just saving money for the reasons I've discussed previously, which is this is an absurdly unstable business that I'm in now, right? So we're just socking money away. But it's amazing how much it affects your psychology to no longer be living with the constant fear of living paycheck to paycheck, right? And that's something that is a wonderful privilege, but it also makes me very cognizant of how most people in the world are living.
So thank you, everyone who
Thank
watches.
you, everyone
we
who
super
watches.
appreciate it.
Co-signed.
Yeah. Next question: who eats the food you make for videos?
We try to let a lot of it not go to waste, but to be unfortunately very honest about it. The food usually isn't that good after the time I shoot it because it's cold. It's been sitting around for a long time. I often cook it at weird times. I often shoot cooking at odd times of day for when it works with our house and when kids will be quiet or not here, that kind of thing. So I'm often cooking dinner at 10 in the morning, or I'm cooking it at 3 in the morning, right? And times when no one really wants to eat anyway. So unfortunately, more of it goes to waste than I think is good. And we will try to think of some ways to curtail food waste.
We have shared with neighbors before.
Yeah. So for the next recipe video, which is going to be a rather, I think, novel roast. I shouldn't say that. Someone's gonna find where somebody else did this before, and I'm gonna get in trouble. But I don't know of anyone who's done this way of roasting a chicken before. I've not seen it done before. I'm sure. I'm just reinventing the wheel. But anyway, but I had to test. I had to test this roast chicken 10 times.
Six full chickens.
So we were sharing chickens with neighbors.
What video are you most proud of? Or do you just like the best?
I don't know. I mean, I think this is very common for people who do all kinds of creative work, which is that my favorite thing is usually the thing that I've most recently created, but only for the first 24 to 48 hours, right? I'll get it in the can and I'll love it and I'll feel it's very satisfying to, especially for something like a YouTube video that, at least with my production schedule, it requires kind of a spasm of incredibly intense focused work to get it over the shooting and the research or whatever, that might kind of be spread out in little bits and bursts over the course of weeks. But then there's going to be this period where I have to sit down and edit it. And that's generally, at least a 12-hour proposition. And I'll often do a lot of that, or really most of it, in one big sort of marathon run, which is that's kind of one of the awful parts that I was alluding to earlier. I need to find some ways of making editing more sustainable, especially kind of physically. Bad things start to happen to your body when you sit like that for 12 hours, several times a week, right? So anyways, where was I? Okay, so when you get to the end of like that little marathon and you go and you look back at what you just created, and it's incredibly satisfying. And I will watch it many times for fun over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours. And then after that point, I never want to see it again. Like I'll hit this point and it's like in a relationship when, you know, suddenly the glow wears off and you're just like, ugh.
Hey.
Well, you know.
I hope the glows come back around again after 15 years.
That's what makes an adult marriage different, right? Is that like you learn that that's not what it's all about, those feelings,
true.
right?
It's true. I'm glad you've kept me around longer than a video.
But yeah, like once something is about 48 hours old, I never want to see it again in my entire life. And it becomes mortifying. But I'll point to a couple of things that I like. So the one of the first kind of sciencey videos I did about what happens to alcohol when you cook it, I was really pleased with how that came out. From a production standpoint, I stole it from Jeff Nippard, but like the thing where you print the studies out and then you can film yourself kind of highlighting lines in them and stuff like that. I haven't done that since, just because it's wasteful of paper, and it's not an efficient way of working. It's much easier to do that all digitally. But I really liked how that looked. I thought that was cool. And then the hot chocolate video that I did recently at our neighbor Erin's house. Because she has this beautiful kitchen with a lot of natural light in it. Mine is very cave-like. There's very little natural light gets in here. I was able to get just really, really beautiful, soft, natural light in a very, very nice, recently redone kitchen. And in a way, I disliked it because I consciously try very hard to avoid kind of food porn aesthetics, and certainly like kitchen porn aesthetics. I don't want my stuff to be to put it in the disgustingly euphemistic language of the marketing business, I don't want my stuff to be aspirational, right? I want it to be relatable. And if I want anything kind of stylized or heightened about the way that I shoot, I want it to be kind of quirky and fun and funny. That's why I use that ring light that puts a really natural glow on food. I sometimes even like it when like my shots look kind of clinical, like when I do those bird's eye view shots of like vegetable prep, it kind of looks like surgery or something like that. I like that, because what I don't want to put forth is that kind of food magazine vibe where I'm trying to razzle dazzle you with things that are going to ultimately deceive you, right? Make the food look better than it actually is. I don't want to do that. That said, oh boy, that kitchen was real pretty, wasn't it? And that light was real pretty, wasn't it? It made me want to do everything like that, but I don't know. Should we tell them about the kitchen at this point?
Sure.
So, although we've not been changing our lifestyle in any meaningful way other than saving a lot of money lately, we are going to redo the kitchen.
We've lived in this house for 8 years.
Yeah.
And shortly after we moved in, there were parts of the kitchen that it became clear really needed to be redone, but we couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
So we've just been living with it. We've bought new appliances as things have broken.
Yeah. So it's time, but we're also, it's primarily to make it more shootable. The biggest difference is that the stove is going to be in an island, which will be right in the center. And so I'll have 360 degrees of shooting angles available to me around the stove, which I think is gonna, again, not in the service of like dazzling you with an aspirational kitchen, right? But in service of actually just getting you clearer angles so that you can just see a little bit better what's happening. And certainly I'm especially over by the stove, which is right up against the wall. I'm really kind of trapped into doing those super tight shots all the time. And I like super tight shots for food because it's important to see detail. It's important to see, oh, that's like how the shrimp, should look when it's about that point, right? But I would like to not be locked into doing the super tight angles all the time, because especially like if you're doing something that involves your whole body, a cooking procedure that involves doing things with your arms, like tying up knots and things like that. Like I think that it would be helpful to you to see a wider angle on that, and this will help with that.
We're very excited, but it will be some weird videos during that time.
Yes, exactly. I won't be able to shoot in here for like a month, and so I'm not totally sure what we're going to do about that.
We're gonna make
plans.
Visit some friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, what is your skincare routine? You're glowing.
My skincare routine is
Nothing.
Softbox lights. Here, I'll show you. There you go. That's my skincare routine right there. That's my skincare routine. Okay, this is why everyone looks, better than they actually do on television. It's called softbox lighting. It's just a light with a diffuser around it.
It makes everybody look like they're 17.
Yep. and it's like, and I only got them because I couldn't shoot my talking head shots with my ring light because I wear glasses, and so I would get, if you're talking dead into the light, you're going to get terrible reflection on the glasses. And I made one video like that, and it was just awful. So I just ordered this softbox kit. It was literally, there's so much. It's amazing the cheap filmmaking gear you can get from China nowadays. I think this kit was $70 for both lights and stands and everything. And yeah, I kind of don't like that it's, again, I don't want things to be heightened, and I don't like that if, as silly as it may sound, like I don't like that maybe you might not feel really good about your skin because you think that mine is so perfect when it's not,
I think he literally washes his face with the bar of soap that's
No, I don't. I do not wash my face. I just kind of like, I splash water over it, but like, honestly, come on now. Isn't that actually the best skincare routine? Like, just don't mess with it. Don't poke it. Don't poison it. Like, just let it live and breathe.
Says the man with lovely Italian skin.
Next question.
Okay. What's the process of making a video like? So can you just give us a quick, I do it in this order?
Sure. So because I have two totally different types of videos, I've got the Monday videos and the Thursday videos. I'll start with the Thursday videos, the recipe videos. And so the first part of that process would be recipe development, right? Which I increasingly do. When I first started, I was doing things that I had really practiced 10 million times. And I've still got a lot of those left in the tank that I haven't shot yet, but I'm increasingly trying to kind of explore new recipes. Or sometimes they're things that I have cooked before, but only like 5-10 times instead of 35,000 times, right? So I'll practice the recipe. I'm very, very concerned about putting recipes out there that aren't reliable. It's one thing for me to waste 10 chickens. It's another thing for me to put out a bad chicken recipe that causes 10,000 people to waste 10,000 chickens, 10,000 semi-sentient beings that perished for nothing, right? So I really, really try to make sure that my recipes are solid before I put them out. So that's the first step. And then I will shoot the recipe. That is often the quickest part, but certainly like the most stressful part, just because it's a lot to juggle, especially with anything that involves any kind of quick cooking. It's a lot to juggle to shoot and cook at the same time. And it's a lot of pressure because, you can make one wrong mistake and then one wrong mistake. All mistakes are wrong, except for the ones that aren't. The happy little mistakes, okay?
Happy accidents.
Happy accidents, that's right. You can make one mistake and then the whole shoot just goes down the tubes, right? And the kids are about to come home and I can't, from school, and I can't shoot again that day. So there's a lot of pressure to get it right, and I don't always, and I've had to do some total redos, which is not awesome. But I try really hard to kind of just plow through it. And one and done, just move the camera around a lot to get lots of different angles. So I'll do that, and then I will write, which will involve basically looking at my footage and thinking about a script and writing the script as I just kind of scrub through the footage, right? I will write the script. I will then go into my closet and record it. I just do that in a coat closet where I've got a little bit of foam up on the walls. I'll do my voiceover, sit down, edit the voiceover, take out all the retakes and all of that, and then I'll start cutting the video to the voiceover. And that, yeah, generally takes about 12 hours.
He is a legitimate one-man band.
And then the thing that kind of like the most like cruel part of it is that like you'll do that and then you think, oh, I'm done, I can go to bed now. But nope, you got to do a thumbnail. And then the thing that really sucks is the captions. Because...
But people are very grateful that you do the captions, and...
Accessibility is important, okay? And it's not that hard with those videos because they're scripted, right? They're already, it's already written out. I often deviate from the script slightly when I'm reading it. So basically I just have to go back, listen through to my video while I'm reading the written script, and I just tweak it to make it right? So I'll do that. It's much harder for the Monday videos, where I'm doing other kinds of videos about food that are not necessarily recipes. And those, much more of the time is spent in terms of research and going through scholarly journals, etc. Finding someone to interview, doing the interview, writing for that takes longer usually. And then I have to come here and shoot the talking head for that, and that's hard because I don't have any kind of like teleprompter set up, and I think there are lots of sort of home teleprompter things that I could do. I think they'd all be sort of more trouble than they'd be worth, because it's a lot to set up, and again, you'll get reflections in your glasses if you're trying to talk to the camera. It's a hard thing. So what I do is I write a script. I get on camera, I look at a paragraph of script or 2-3 sentences of script on my phone, and I will sort of commit it to memory, but I try to commit more the idea of it to memory rather than the specific wording. And then I will deliver that to camera from memory. And again, it tends to work better if I think about delivering the idea rather than the specific words. And repeat. And that's it takes me usually at least an hour to record all of that stuff. And then I have to clean all of that up. And then once I clean all of that up, I have to start putting in B-roll and all the other imagery and everything. And so those don't take quite as long to edit usually anymore as the recipe videos. Mostly just because I've gotten better at all the kind of whiz-bangery that I do there, the sort of motion graphics type stuff. That was really hard at first because I was just learning how to do that on the job. But now I've got that stuff kind of down. And so it still takes at least 10 hours, I'd say, of editing on those. And then when I have to do the captions for those, that takes like 2 hours because I wasn't delivering the script as written. And so I more or less have to actually hand transcribe everything that I said. And that's a drag at the end of the night when you're just trying to go to bed. But it's important, and again, it all beats a real job.
What do you listen to while you're cooking?
I can't. I don't.
Well, just in general.
Oh, podcasts. Yeah. For people who don't know, I worked in radio and podcasting for pretty much my entire post college and grad school career, and love podcasts, and there's so many wonderful things out there, and yeah, that's really what I listen to. I don't listen to music when cooking. I think that's just too much noise.
If you could magically master the cuisine of one culture or region, so like you woke up tomorrow and had all the skills to be good at it, what would you choose?
Oh man, that's a toughie. Because I think you would, if you were gonna request that gift of a genie, you wouldn't want it to just be something that you like, right? You'd want it to be something that would be hard to get the old-fashioned way, right? It would have to be some kind of East Asian cuisine because there's, you're talking about food cultures that are so technique heavy, all of the knife skills and all that kind of stuff. And that's the stuff that I don't want to put the time into learning. So let's say sushi, I guess. I don't know.
If you could open up a restaurant, what kind of food would you serve?
Oh gosh, as much as I'm glad to be a home cook, and when people are like, "Oh, are you gonna get Blair like a real chef?" I'm like, "Hey, just Good thing I don't need to worry about that because I'm not a real chef and I don't have to concern myself with the problems of real chefs. Opening a restaurant that's a really, really hard life, and I'm glad that I don't live it. But you still fantasize, right? Like, so I think it would be primarily a pizza place. I think it would be like a pizza and a few other kind of Italianish entrees, and just like a really, really good, table wine. Just like house red, house white. Get a carafe of it, real cheap. And some, big sloppy dessert, something really, really simple and convivial and, a place that people would really enjoy going, not that they would feel fancy about going to.
Do I need to stop the dryer?
Do you want to stop the dryer? Okay,
Sorry.
Lauren's going to stop the dryer because it's making a lot of
there's a
noise.
penny in there.
Oh my God, hold on a second. It's okay, that's all right. It's only a $3,000 camera.
Sorry.
That's all right, okay.
Okay, here we go. What are your, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. What are your favorite restaurants?
Oh gosh, so many. But I'll go ahead and feature the local ad, which is there's a place right here in Macon, Georgia called Dovetail.
Oh, it's so good.
It's like if it was in any other city, like it would be packed all the time and the prices would be 3 times as much. And as it stands, it's kind of packed all the time in Macon, Georgia, which is great. It took a while for people around here to, I think, get hip to it and to understand what good. People around here know good food. They do, but like they know from like good home cooking and soul food and that kind of stuff, right? Like they But for like kind of something kind of verging on fine dining, like this market wasn't really quite ready for that when it first hit. And luckily, like people have like gotten to understand it, and it's Dovetail in Macon, Georgia. It's
so
worth
good.
a special trip. And
or
again,
if you're passing through on your way to Disney World.
Yeah, right, exactly. On
just hop off
I-75.
75.
That's right.
Have a good meal, have the cracked pie, get the deviled eggs.
Cracked pie. It's this dessert. I hope one day maybe I can convince them to show it to me for a video. But they make this dessert. Basically it's a chess pie, but it tastes like a giant golden graham.
And they have house-made caramel ice cream on top.
Salty caramel ice cream on it.
Salty caramel. It's so
So
good.
good.
But they change their menu frequently. They have a lot of really local stuff. And, living in Georgia, the local stuff is great.
Yeah. And again, if it was in Atlanta, it would be 3 times as expensive. Easily. It's shockingly cheap. Highly, highly recommend Dovetail in Macon, Georgia.
They also have really great bartenders who make great cocktails. They're very pretty.
Yes.
Okay. Which food YouTuber would you want to have cook a meal for you? And then maybe sit down and enjoy it with you.
So I'm gonna limit my interpretation of that question to people who are
Not celebrity chefs.
Yeah, like not celebrity chefs in some other capacity. We know them purely because of their cooking on YouTube. And so I think it'd be a toss up between Chef John and Helen Rainey. Helen Rainey. Did I say her name right? Sorry, Helen. Love you. But they're honestly, they're both like obviously great cooks, and I think they would turn out a heck of a meal. But mostly I just want to sit and talk to both of them and to have them be my friend. Because they're so lovely. 2 incredibly lovely people. I don't know, I feel bad. It's weird that I'm saying it. I feel bad for presuming that they're lovely, right? No, that's not what I feel bad about. What I feel bad about is how I just presumed that I know them, right? And this is, look, let's take a second to acknowledge the late, great Neil Peart passed, and I felt really bad that after he passed, I was in a video where I wore a Kiss shirt. And it was only because I shot it like many days before we heard about Neil. But, Neil's most famous lyric, "I can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited friend." That thing about fame that me and my utterly minuscule internet fame, I'm just starting to get the tiniest little taste of what he was talking about there, about how when you put yourself out in media, people come to know you, or at least they come to know a version of you. And And then when they meet you or talk to you, they often talk to you like a friend because to them you are, but like to you, to me, you're a stranger, and I don't know, I don't know how to interpret what you're saying to me. Maybe it's sort of like the kind of good-natured ribbing that you would do with a friend, but like, I don't know if you're my friend, right? And so it's kind of this weird kind of one-way thing, and it's a thing. I dropped my lens cap. But all I'm trying to say is that like I feel bad, Helen and John, for presuming that I know you. On the other hand, I feel bad that I felt bad that I presumed that you're nice.
That was very circular. Weird. It is true that, people see a very tiny slice of your life, and they become very sure that they know who you are based on that. And that can sometimes be great, and sometimes it can be hard. It's definitely, I don't know, I feel the effect of that from you. I think there have been times when people are like, oh, I'm so sure I know who Lauren is.
Yeah,
like,
and
no, you don't.
Bro.
Dudes on the internet, fun times.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing, it's like, because my audience is primarily young men, right? And as much as I love you, and I'm so appreciative that you are watching, young men are statistically the worst people, right? Like, they're responsible for most of the, like, violence and awfulness in the world, right?
And, like, 99% of the internet trolling.
Yeah. So, most of you are absolutely lovely, but, like, there's a few people who are terrible, and I try to delete your comments as soon as I can see them, but please, I don't know, dude, just remember that these are real human beings on the other end of your screen here. Anyways, it all beats working in a salt mine, is what I'm going to say, okay? It all beats working in a convenience store, which is something I did for many years. People don't know that. People know that I've never worked in a restaurant. This is true. I have worked in food service.
Which convenience store did you work?
I don't think I should say. Should I say?
Why not?
It's a much beloved mid-Atlantic chain that has been spreading called Sheetz. And I worked at Sheetz for a long time. And that was a hard job.
Do you play the Nintendo Switch, or is it just your kids' Nintendo Switch?
I got it for myself. It was this one day when, because I was still working at Mercer and doing this, and I was absolutely running ragged, and I was really in kind of bad shape mentally. And I was like, I need to do something fun for myself, And so I loaded the kids in the car after school, and I drove to a electronics retailer that I am not surprised at all now to see that they are not doing very well. And I was just like, please just tell me how to play Nintendo in the year 2019 on my television. That's all I want to do. I have money. You can have it, right? Just tell me how to play Mario on my television. And oh my gosh, they were so incredibly unhelpful. And basically, like, they told me that I actually couldn't play the classic games on the Switch, which was not true. And this was after I got someone to help me, which was like a half an hour of like child wrangling, trying to wait for someone to help me. And so anyways, that was like so frustrating. And then I got wise and went to a local game store where the dudes there set me up in like 2 seconds. And so I play the Switch a bit. But I've been amazed to see how quick Freddie picked it up. I thought he was going to be a little too young to play Nintendo, but it's not just Kirby anymore. Like, he's getting really far in Mario 2, the hard one, by himself, which is crazy. And like a lot of people, I don't know, I think a lot of people would be concerned. They would think that that's like, sorry, just the angle's a little bit. A lot of people would think that like that's bad, and I kind of feel like he's developing a lot of like really valuable skills in learning how to operate an electronic device at a high level.
It's concern trolling. I'm not worried.
All right.
Okay. What's your favorite cocktail, beer, wine, etc.?
For wine, usually it's going to be some kind of dry, spicy red, Increasingly, I almost exclusively drink stuff from South America because I just really, really like the notes that you get there. The tobacco, they say like the tobacco-y notes.
If on the menu it says it tastes like tobacco, even though I think that's disgusting.
Yeah, I know.
The
and I
wine
never
itself
smoke, but the wine is great. Yeah,
Oh, so good.
Love that. In terms of cocktails, I don't know. I like a lot of things. I like a lot of just basic highballs. Scotch and soda, or it's people might think that this is sacrilegious, but like cognac and soda, or just cognac on the rocks, I really, really like. But I also like sort of more elaborate cocktails. Generally, I like things that are kind of citrusy but not sweet. So grapefruit juice, things made with grapefruit, I often really, really like. Things made with bitters. Gin, I love gin.
The joke is that whenever we go out to eat, and I always order like the spiciest, driest red wine on the menu, and then Adam gets adventurous and orders a cocktail, and no matter what it is,
it's always a pink drink.
It always comes out pink in like a martini glass, and then they always set it down in front of me.
But it's the year 2019, and I'm okay with that.
It's the year 2020,
oh,
actually.
Good Lord. Holy hell.
We just do a little...
So it's 2020 and that's no longer okay, all right? All right. No more pink drinks.
We just do a little switcheroo, and you're very strong in your pink drink consumption.
And then for beers, I don't know. I mean, it's so funny. I grew up, my first beer that I drank a lot of in Pennsylvania where I grew up is from a local brewery there called Victory. And they have this imperial, I think it's an imperial stout called Storm King, which is like motor oil. Like it is so heavy and bitter. It's crazy. And I totally drank it purely to like impress my friends, or really one particular friend. Hi, Peter. But at the same time, like I then became accustomed to it. Like, a lot of people probably start drinking coffee, black, just to make the people around them think they're tough or sophisticated or something. But then you start to like it, right? So I really did like, very, very bitter, extremely hoppy beers for a long time. And that, and I came of age right when like the era of the microbrewed IPA dawned. And so I had tons of options. But gosh, I've increasingly been like, I don't know, giving myself permission to try things that are not quite as intense. And yeah, I've really been liking a lot of just, plain old lagers lately. Just nice, simple German beer. It's a lovely thing. Yeah.
Why don't you use wooden cutting boards? Is this a whole video?
It'll probably be a whole video. Mostly because it's like I'm not totally confident in my thinking, right? Poly cutting boards are easier to sterilize because you can just throw them in the dishwasher, right? And and lots of, Dr. Diaz, Dr. Francisco Diaz Gonzalez, who's a professor at the University of Georgia who focuses on food safety, whom I've used in a few videos. Or rather used. He's been gracious enough to participate in a few videos. He's on the side of plastic cutting boards when it comes to safety. However, there are things to think about beyond simply microbial life, right? There's, essentially endocrine disruptors to think about. What about that? What of those are getting into your food via the cutting board? So I honestly don't know. And I've tooled around looking at research on this, and there's not much, honestly, exploring these questions. So I'm going to try to do a video about this at some point, and maybe there's some research that I haven't seen, and if you know of some, please let me know about it. But honestly, until then, I use plastic because I can throw it in the dishwasher, and wood you can't. It's that simple. And I like the pull toward wood is that, again, it looks sexier on camera, and I don't want to make decisions on that basis. I'm not going for food porn here. I think that insults your intelligence. I like the plain white poly OXO cutting boards, good grips, look kind of medical almost,
I like the wooden one, or the plastic ones, like you said, because you put them in the dishwasher, and I don't want to hand wash wooden cutting boards when I'm cooking. So
it's true.
What kitchen gadget do you think is a waste of money?
Most of them? Well, I've certainly, talked about crock pots in the past that I think if you have an electric or induction stove, that there's no reason to have a crock pot. Like, just get a Dutch oven and put it on low. So that would be one. I know that a lot of people have asked about pressure cookers and why I don't use them and what I feel about them. And I think pressure cookers are, they're lovely and they're really like essential to some of the cuisines of the world, right? So please don't, the fact that I don't like pressure cookers, that's nothing about you. But like, yeah, I've owned a couple, including one you got me that I ended up not using. And it's just for the very simple reason that they stress me out. And I know that like modern pressure cookers are not very dangerous. A lot of things have to go wrong for you to have an explosion, but just the sound and kind of getting them up to pressure and getting them down to a pressure where you can open them, it just kind of stresses me out. And I hate that I can't just open the lid and look at my food whenever I want to, It's just not a fun way to cook for me. And, if it were essential for me, then I would get over that, but it's not, I can do lots of like long stewed things on the weekend in my Dutch oven, and I don't care that it takes all day to cook, and to a great extent, that's like a phenomenon of privilege, right? The fact that like I'm not working a third job on Saturday, I'm at home, right? Allows me to like babysit a pot for 12 hours and it doesn't bother me. It's just a much more, but because I have that privilege, that's how I choose to cook. It's a much more enjoyable, relaxing way of cooking to me than dealing with a pressure cooker.
You don't do many breakfast recipes or any. Have you done any? I don't know. The frittata.
Frittata.
So you don't do many breakfast recipes. What do you like to eat for breakfast?
Yeah, not a big breakfast eater.
I think you're a big breakfast eater only because I'm a huge breakfast eater. I love to go out for breakfast.
Right, like so we just go to Waffle House a lot. Is really like what it is.
Yeah.
Which is probably the most.
Or H&H if the kids aren't there.
Yes, H&H if the kids aren't there, but if we have the kids, Waffle House, and that's probably the most Southern thing about us at this point is
I love Waffle
how
House.
Frequently we go to the Waffle House.
I know my order. I like my waffle dark.
Where I usually get steak and eggs with tomatoes and eggs over easy and dry wheat toast. So yeah, I'm not a big breakfast eater. It's generally the one time of day when I'm not hungry. So I don't.
And I'm ravenous.
Yeah, exactly. And in a terrible mood usually. Until you are fed.
I'm such a delight. I just love going out. I love breakfast food. I don't like to cook breakfast food. I want someone to make me eggs or corned beef hash with runny eggs.
Yeah. Love runny eggs. Absolutely adore a perfect over easy egg. And there's times in my life where I've practiced that a bit and gotten okay at it, but that's a kind of skill you gotta like use it or lose it. And I've certainly lost it at this point. Love runny eggs. Absolutely delicious. I make pancakes for the kids all the time.
You dye them colors because they always ask.
Yeah. And so there will be a pancake video at some point. Yeah.
Okay. I always love fresh herbs in my food, but when I buy some, I end up only using a little bit before the whole bunch goes bad and I have to throw it out. Then I feel like I just threw out money. Suggestions?
I hear that because I love fresh herbs, but Lauren doesn't. And so...
Well, that's not totally true. I like fresh herbs cooked into things, but you like to put green stuff on top, and I don't care for that.
I don't care for the green stuff on top. I don't put it on top usually. I like toss it in at the last second, right?
I don't mind that so much.
So honestly, here's I think like the best, assuming that you don't live in a climate where you can grow some herbs year round, right? If you do, then man, just get little pots and trim them, and you shouldn't feel bad. I mean, herbs will grow better if you prune them. Most herbs will grow better if you prune them frequently. Don't feel bad about just throwing away basil, just throwing it on the ground and letting it rot. It doesn't matter. Just grow a few herbs in pots, right? If you have winter, Honestly, the best thing is those hydroponic herb growing kits.
Arrow Garden?
Yeah, my brother sent me one of those for Christmas years ago.
Yeah, we had it in
And
Boston. I used it for a couple years.
I use it all the time. It was great. I forget. I think it got like lost in a move or something. And yeah, those things are fantastic and really effective. And you know, a pretty little thing to have in the corner of the house. Just you know, be aware that your neighbors might think you're growing weed.
What injuries have you gotten from cooking?
I mean, I burn myself pretty frequently.
Big gnarly burn. Look, they're on your forearm.
Yeah. But they always, the thing is, it's so frustrating because they look so much worse than they are. Like, so my first viral cooking video, my first New York style pizza video, I had this like horrible burn on my hand right here. It wasn't horrible. It was totally, you know, superficial, but it looked bad, right? And that was one of my first, because like I said, I worked in radio and stuff before I did this. I started making cooking videos to learn how to do video. I'm total novice. And so that was before I had came to understand in a visceral sense that cameras make very, very small things very big. And tiny little things that you would never really cross your mind about, you know, with your fingernails being a little bit long, you know, things that don't matter in the real world, all of a sudden on camera, it becomes huge, right? And so, yeah, like I feel bad that I grossed people out with like this big gnarly burn on my hand. I didn't even think about it, you know, because it didn't hurt, right? Those kinds of skin burns you get from like the, you know, side of the oven or the broiler array or something like that, like they, you know, they don't hurt that much, but they look real nasty. I cut, I have a, God, can I even find the scar anymore? I really badly cut my hand when I was like a teenager, cutting an orange with a knife, and that's probably like the worst thing. But no, in general, I've
despite everyone's concerns in the comments with your knife skills,
yeah.
you have not cut yourself, knock on wood.
Well, dude, this is, I mean, I'm gonna make a whole video about this, but like the you know, stop it with the concern trolling about my knife skills and my not using the claw technique, okay?
He cuts very slowly, so it's
Go
okay.
slow. Just go slow. Just go slow. It's that easy, okay? You don't need to have knife skills, just go slow. The reason that professionals have to have knife skills is because they have to mow through a freaking 60-pound bag of onions in prep, right? You have to cut up one. There's no economy of scale to be realized in cutting an onion in 15 seconds as opposed to 1 minute. That's 45 seconds saved on your day is not a meaningful amount of time, right? Those are differences that only become meaningful when they get multiplied across many iterations, right?
In the lentil video, I dropped my onion on the ground and still got it cut in like 30 seconds.
Sure did, yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's say you found a time machine and it would allow you to see any 3 gigs in time. What would they be? It has to be 1 gig, not an entire festival, though gigs at festivals would be
gig,
allowed.
I
yes.
see.
So, musical acts. Queen at Live Aid.
Oh no, they were so past their prime at that point.
But it's so iconic.
Yeah, they were way past their prime. I would love to see Queen sort of like post haircut, Freddie's haircut, and you know, mustache era, but pre when they started bringing touring musicians out with them and having keyboard players, when it was just the 4 of them. And no samples, no backstage musicians, nothing like that. You know. Well, I mean, I think a lot of that. I mean, that's documented in the Live at Montreal Queen concert film, which, you know, Run Don't Walk. If you haven't seen that, that was them right before they became a band that I wouldn't want to see live. Certainly would love to see Metallica before Cliff Burton had died. And I would have wanted to see it after Master of Puppets came out so I could hear those songs. And like, you know, didn't he die like two weeks after the record came out? So one of those gigs, you know. And then for the third one, it might sound like pandering to the local audience, but it's honestly true to see Otis Redding at the Douglas Theater here in Macon before he broke, where he was apparently just, you know, pulling the roof down around people's ears with his incredible charisma. What a loss that guy was. Speaking of losses, those three big losses.
Well, that's why seeing would be valuable, because you couldn't. Anyway.
Yeah.
Do you ever worry about running out of video ideas? And related, would you ever make videos about something other than cooking?
Yeah, so not really. I mean, food is a pretty big topic, right? Certainly part of the reason that I started doing the Monday videos that are like about food but not a recipe is that I knew that if I just did recipes, I would run out of ideas. Or maybe I wouldn't run out of ideas, but I would get bored. Like, I'm not that interested, but I am super interested in all the kind of ancillary issues around food. And those, you could easily fill a lifetime exploring that kind of stuff. And you could certainly fill a lifetime doing recipes as long as you're willing to go beyond your own repertoire, which is something that I am increasingly doing now that I'm doing this full time, going to visit other people and bringing you their recipes. Which, by the way, I want to say something about that. I would love it if people could bear in mind that when I go and talk to somebody about their recipe, that I think that although I will give them feedback about what kind of recipe I think would work for you, ultimately it's their baby. They are the author of that, and they get to have their say. And at some point, I need to step back and say, this is yours, and to preserve that authenticity. And so, yes, sometimes people that I feature might do things in a way that is different from how I would normally do it, and that's just fine. I think you can handle that. Did I answer the question? Oh, and then the other, would you do things about, so yes, I am infamously scatterbrained in terms of my interests, would you say, right? Yeah. Like, I'll fall down a rabbit hole and, want to just learn about swords for 3 weeks and then something else.
I think it's been longer than 3 weeks
well,
with
swords,
the swords.
Yeah, that's true. That's a bad example, yeah. I have lots of interests, and I think you do too. And so I would love to make videos about things that aren't food, but I'm in a position right now where I really can't be adding new things, right? I have been dismayed at how much my lifestyle has not improved since walking away from the university. I'm still working too much.
Although you've had fewer all-nighters.
That's true. Definitely fewer all-nighters, for sure. So I can't be adding things. If I can figure out a way to kind of streamline my food channel operation, then yes, I think I will start a second channel, which will be about other things. But that might not be for a while.
All right. Let's see. What are your goals for the channel in 2020, and what do we have to look forward to?
So I think I've already touched on that, but I'll simply reiterate. My biggest goal is honestly just to kind of find a healthy, sustainable pace of working. To just keep giving you what you apparently like, which is great, regularly and at a pace that isn't gonna hurt me. Or us, or you, right? You have to live with this nightmare all the time.
It's hardly a trial.
Beats working at the Sheetses, let me tell you that.
I would like to see you figure out a way to make it, just not be so at 11 all the time, and that may involve, potentially hiring someone to help would maybe be worth it. Yeah. But again, you're such a one-man band that you'd have to kind of figure out a way to untangle things in order to do that.
Exactly. That's my main reason for not hiring a video editor or something, is I think I'm not sure it would actually save me effort. All of the work that it would take to coordinate with someone, and then just knowing me, and it would be hard for me to let go of that kind of control. So it's
all of your projects you've done, you have always been your music, you were the one. And with the podcast, you had, you worked with some people, but for the most part, you were the one. Yeah. And yeah, even when you worked at GPB, a lot of times you were the only one in there.
It's true. So that's the big thing, is just to kind of find something that is sustainable for all of us. But in terms of some specifics, yes, I would like to travel more. I'd like to do more field trips. Taking people to different places is going to be a lot of fun, and featuring lots of other people's cooking is got a lot of things like that in the works. It's going to be good.
A lot of people have asked. One thing we will not be doing is starting any kind of like family lifestyle vlogging situation. We're not interested.
Were people asking that?
Yeah, yeah. No, we're not. This is a very small window into our life, and that's enough. Well, how do you feel when people approach you in real life? Have you gotten recognized? Have people approached you?
Yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah, that's starting to happen, and it's been really, it's been lovely. This is like talking about Neil, I mean, he was experiencing a level of fame that could really be oppressive, right? And he was in Rush. It's not like he was Michael Jackson or something, right? Like, so like real fame, I think, is probably terrible in a lot of ways, right? This level of fame is like perfect because like enough people know you to provide you with a livelihood and to provide you with a feeling of frankly, of just self-esteem, of importance, that like you matter to other people. That's lovely. And to people tell you that they appreciate what you do, I mean, that's absolutely wonderful. But I don't have to like be like Michael Jackson and put on like my Groucho glasses when I go to the mall like he did. I'm talking about like pre-Thriller era Michael Jackson. He actually used Groucho glasses. Then there's other things he did. But
That's a mouthful.
That's a mouthful. So generally, yes, in general, it's absolutely lovely. I did have, for the first time, someone show up at the house the other day, and I wish I had handled it better, because it wasn't that I was mad, I was just confused. Because basically it was like I was out on the porch already. I was not inside, nobody knocked on the door. I was out on the porch already trying to wrangle a child, right? And then I see this fella park his car and kind of get out and approach me and say, hey, I introduced himself and said, I love your videos. I'm like, oh my God, that's lovely. But it did not occur to me that he had come to see me. Like, I guess I didn't think a lot about it at all, but I think what my brain just sort of instinctively thought was like, this is a chance encounter, right? Like he just was walking down the street and he saw me because I was out on the porch. And so he wanted to say hi. And so the way I kind of handled it was I sort of said, yeah, oh, that's awesome. Okay, bye, right? And then I just sort of went back inside. But like, I think he was like there to see me. And so I feel really, I mean, if you're watching, I feel really bad. I could have handled that a lot better. You were absolutely lovely. That said, if people are wondering, probably not great to show up at the house unannounced, right? But that's like a basic, I don't think that's like special to me, right? Like nobody wants anyone showing up at their house unannounced, even if, their address is a public record in the phone book, So, would prefer to not do that. But what I'd love to do is meetups. If anybody wants to organize anything, especially if it's in reasonably easy driving distance of Georgia, I'll come to your meetup. I'll come see people. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, just Adam, if you approach him on the street, he's a scatterbrained, frazzled person. I say this with all the love in the world.
No, it's true. It's absolutely true.
And so most of, I think what is like deer in the headlights, like what is happening now? He's not being rude. He just is confused. Yeah. So just be aware. But like when we did my book launch at Little Shop of Stories, and you told people in the video to come, and you would be there.
And those kids from Decatur came?
Yeah, and they were
those lovely kids.
They were telling you all the things.
You guys were the best.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Oh.
So stuff like that, yeah, I think, and you were ready for it, and like to have those conversations, and that was really cool. And then some of them stayed and bought my book, which was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those kind of things, but just be aware. And I think it's with anybody. If you approach them on the street, they're going to be a little like, I'm just at the Kroger. What is happening? Yeah.
Should we leave it there?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, this was a good one. So we'll do it again sometime. I think I'm going to do this every 2 months. That seems like a good pace for this. So talk to you in 2 months. Bye.